You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball, the voice that you have tolerated more likely than not begrudgingly for the last 8 years returns to the Show Before the Show, and that is me. My name is Tyler Mon. A huge thanks to the gentlemen Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill who held down the Show Before the Show podcast over the last couple of weeks, to all of the greatest fanfare and critical acclaim, especially because I didn't have to voice myself onto people. Great work. Ben Hill joins me from New York City. Great stuff, as always, man.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I really got to give it to Sam. I mean, he's been the one really keeping us afloat more often than not. He's a very conscientious guy. I mean, we do tell stories about him, and I do dig up some dirt on him. I'm currently exploring a
always true dirt, by the way.
Yeah, always true. I mean, I did get
factual.
a tip about regarding allegations of him cheating on his middle school candlepin bowling team. So
unbelievable.
I know.
These are like the muckrakers of like 1920s politics. Like somebody comes out of the woodwork and they're like, I bet Ben Hill would dig this story about Sam Dykstra's bowling acumen. See?
Precisely. So we're digging in a little bit more on that, but I got some good leads on that. But Sam's a good guy, so let's keep it positive.
He is the best guy. We're going to hear from Sam coming up here in just a little bit. And we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. It might be like a noisy episode. I don't think we've told this story on the podcast, but like, almost 5 months ago now, our dishwasher broke and it like leaked through our entire kitchen floor and into our basement. So we've just like been living without a kitchen ever since. I got back home last night from a trip, a little family trip. And, I think I got to bed around 1:45 in the morning, and at 7:30 this morning, the crew showed up to start working on our kitchen. So if you're like sawing and hammering and stuff, I'm not building anything because I'm not handy. It's like actual people who are handy who are doing good work. So, there's a lot of good gnat sound in the background, industry term in the podcast world, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really professional when it comes to this.
Yeah, I mean, how emasculating. You got real men doing real work in your house, and you're like, fellas, I got to go record a podcast.
I got to go talk about things on an internet show about baseball stuff. One of the guys walked by my office earlier, and he goes, so you like baseball? I was like, yeah, because I got my hat wall is the first thing that you see. Then I have to explain myself. I'm not a lunatic, I promise. There's like a reason behind all of this. And we know that so many of you are that same level of lunatic. And we thank you for hanging out with us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Again, we will hear from Sam coming up here in a little bit. We are closing in on some really fun days in the major and minor league baseball season, including the Futures game coming up next week. And we've got another little item to discuss about potential future Major League All-Stars. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a short time. But wherever you found us, thanks for hanging out with us. You can, of course, get in touch with the podcast at milb.com. Send along your questions, your thoughts, your comments as the season passes. The Midsummer Classic coming up next week in Arlington, Texas at the big league level. And Ben Hill, been on the road, going on the road again. But one of my favorite Ben Hill, I think this is a Ben Hill invention. Is Crooked Numbers a Ben Hill invention, or did that exist in like the very weird pre-Ben Hill world?
No, that was a Ben Hill invention, so to speak, along with another longtime coworker, Jason Ratliff. This is a column dedicated to minor league baseball oddities and curiosities, statistical anomalies, and it has its roots well over a decade ago when Jason and I would just this is pre-Slack. I guess IM each other in the office, just weird minor league stuff that we were finding, and then we just started calling it the column. Put this one in the column, put this one in the column. And then after a couple of years, it was like, we should really do this column. So I started writing it. then took a hiatus from it after a number of years, just when too much was going on. Now it's back in a monthly fashion. We've talked about it on this podcast before, but haven't dug too deep into it. But right now it's running on MLB.com, MILB.com once a month. Each edition highlighting a month of weirdness in the minor leagues. So, yes, we are well into July now, but a lot is going on. And the June crooked numbers covering all the MILB minor league baseball weirdness in June is out. If not right now, then very, very soon for your reading pleasure. And Tyler, I can share a couple of those.
I would very much enjoy if you did. That is one of my favorite. I got to write a couple of crooked numbers a couple seasons ago. It was like one of my favorite things that I have ever gotten a chance to work on, as far as the relatively regular things that we trot out on the site. So let's hear it. I don't know any of the crooked numbers that are coming our way. I don't know any of the wild stories, and I am excited to latch onto the weirdest among them.
Yeah, let's start because I do start in the column with some notes from the Dominican Summer League. I almost feel bad for doing so because the Dominican Summer League, along with the Arizona Complex League, the Florida Complex League, these are the youngest of the young professionals. And
there can be some very weird lines from all of those leagues.
Yeah.
We'll have teams score 30 plus runs in a game and just like complete chaos in some of those games.
Precisely. But it is professional baseball. It does count as minor league baseball, and you do find some weirdness there. Also, I don't know what the last time you've looked, if ever, Tyler, because I hadn't, at Dominican Summer League, like list of teams or standings or whatever. There's like 8 divisions.
There are a lot of teams.
And 51 teams in the Dominican Summer League.
And there are like a lot of like really interestingly named teams. Like it's not just so often we'll just have like, Phillies East versus Phillies West or whatever it is. But in the Dominican Summer League, there are a lot that are very interestingly named, like DSL Dodgers Mega or DSL Royals Fortuna or DSL NYY Bombers for the Yankees affiliate. So like they'll name things based on the local the locations of their camp or the jerseys that the specific affiliate wears. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the DSL.
There really is. It'd be fun to go check it out one day. I don't believe those are, admission charging games or anything like that. Just complex league, pure raw development. And talk about raw. June 4th, the DSL Yankees. Just the Yankees. There are other DSL Yankee teams, but this one's just called the DSL Yankees. They beat DSL Arizona Black. Again, there's probably more than one Arizona team in the DSL. 19-7. They scored 11 runs in the first inning, highlighted by Luis Puello's grand slam. But you know what? That was one of 2 hits in the entire inning, and they scored 11 runs.
11 runs on 2 hits.
Yes, 3 different pitchers each recorded 1 out while issuing 3 walks in that inning. And there was other like errors and hit by pitches and that kind of stuff. And then after that, and this was a scheduled 7-inning game, I believe, or at least they only played 7 innings. So Arizona Yankees only batted 6 times. But then over those remaining 3 innings, 3 more pitchers combined to walk 11 more batters. So the final score 19-7 over 6.5, a game that was only 6.5 innings. The Yankees' 19 runs came on 8 hits and 20 walks. 20 walks.
Not a game that I am sad to have missed.
20 walks over 6 innings pitched in a 19-7 loss.
Those are 2 teams that have kind of struggled this year. DSL Rangers Red, they lead the Dominican Summer League South at 21-4, but the Yankees and Arizona Black are the last 2 teams in that division. They are 9-16 and 7-18 respectively. But DSL Arizona Black has a run differential of -67, which, whoa, yeah, I guess with the walks, it might do that to you.
Yeah, so that was a rough one, maybe indicative of their season thus far. Another one 2 days later on June 6th in the DSL Padres Gold. We're playing against Dodgers Bautista. And I looked at their roster and I thought maybe that's the manager. There was a coach named Bautista, but not the manager. But I was like, are they called Bautista in honor of this coach on the team? I don't know. It's hard to get information, about this league, but we need to look into it more. Anyhow, DSL Padres Gold scored 14 runs over the first 7 innings of the game. Pretty good, right? Then they scored 8 in the 8th and 9 in the 9th. Final score 31-2.
31-2.
Yeah, over 17 runs in the final 2 innings.
Oh,
Padres Gold, they're having a romp. They started making a bunch of substitutions. 16 different hitters on Padres Gold appeared at the plate in the game, and every one of them scored at least 1 run.
oh my
16
goodness.
different guys scored at least 1 run each in a 31-2 victory. Rough day for Dodgers Bautista.
That is yeah, again, that's another one. That's like one of those ones where you're just like, all right, let's all get out of here. And then they're putting up 17 runs in the final 2 innings. Like, nah,
Yeah, I know. It's already 14-2.
Right. You guys can just go up there and like take 3 pitches, right? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there aren't any. Maybe there aren't 3 pitches in the zone to be taken out of every 4.
Yeah, or maybe, hey, every at bat counts. You're trying to put up your numbers. You're a young guy, and don't put your
That's true. That's a fair point. That is true.
Don't take your foot off the gas. As I wrote in the column, for Padres Gold that day, DSL stood for "Don't Slow Down." Ooh, killer line.
Wait, how could it stand for "Don't Slow Down" if it's L at the end? Or was that the joke?
Oh wait, you're right. Oh my God, I wrote that.
Don't slow L down.
Don't slow L down.
Yeah, that works. Don't slow L down. I like that.
Oh, man. Thank you for editing me there. What the heck? Yeah. DSD.
Personally, I think don't slow L down is funnier. So I think you should just leave it in like that.
Yeah. Oh boy. I thought I had a clever line, and the acronym didn't even work.
All right, what's up next?
All right. Let's go all the way up to AAA. And you guys might have talked about this game at one point. Columbus Clippers, Indianapolis Indians. Clippers beat the Indianapolis Indians 23-5 on June 6th. And that included a 12-run ninth inning in which 2 players each hit 2 home runs in the inning. A 12-run inning with 2 players each hitting 2 home runs. Brian Lavastida and Jonathan Rodriguez.
Man, that is wild.
Yeah, Rodriguez had also homered in the 8th, and he finished the evening with 9 RBIs, including 3 home runs over the final 2 innings. So you have a 3 home run game over just the 8th and 9th. I don't know why the stats on this, we could only find it going back to 1974 in the major leagues. But since 1974, that has only happened once in the major leagues. 2 players each hitting 2 home runs in the same inning. That was done on May 2nd, 2002. Seattle Mariners. Any guesses, Tyler? What 2 players hit 2 home runs in the same inning? Seattle Mariners in 2002. One of them did it in the midst of a 4 home run game.
Wow. That I feel like I should know. 2002 Mariners. That would have been post Griffey. He was on the Reds by that point, right? Trying to think of who the 02 Mariners outside of Ichiro would have had. They didn't. Brett Boone.
Brett Boone is one of them, but he was good guess. Brett Boone did it along with this player who went on to have 4 home runs in the game.
Is it somebody obvious? Am I going to think like, oh yeah, of course?
I wouldn't say obvious, but he's not an obscure name. I remember.
Cameron.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my first 2 guesses. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with myself. I did not remember Mike Cameron having a 4-homer game. Good for him.
Yeah.
That dude was a fun player.
Yeah, May 2nd, 2002. But yeah, Columbus Clippers did it in the 9th inning. And, I have to, each of those guys, Lavastida and Rodriguez, who hit 2 home runs each in that 9th inning, both of their second home runs came off a position player, different position players.
Okay.
And I find that's more and more common when you look at these crazy scores. Then you check the box score, and it's like, well, that's an impressive game, but
they threw out a backup second baseman for the final 7 outs. Yeah.
Yeah, when you win like 26-2, but then you look at the box score and 11 runs came over the last 2 innings, or whatever the case may be, against position players, it doesn't feel as.
It takes some of the shine away. I would agree with that.
It does, but you know what? Lavastida,
Not that I could
and
hit a home run off a
Rodriguez.
position play.
Yeah, no one can take it away from you.
Right, exactly.
You hit 2 home runs in the same inning, both of you, in a professional baseball game. And yeah, Rodriguez's second one was a grand slam, against the position player.
Again, another one that's just like, all right, should we just all go home now?
Yeah, exactly. That same day, the same day that those two were hitting 2 home runs in the same inning in Columbus, or for Columbus, June 6th. This is a game we might have talked about, but John Garcia of the Asheville Tourists collected 5 hits against the Bowling Green Hot Rods, and they were all doubles. A 5-double game on June 6th for John Garcia. And no player in Major League history has ever hit 5 doubles in a game.
Wow.
And so that's awesome. And then here's an issue we come into covering minor league baseball and trying to put things in historical perspective. 2005 was the first year of what is now MILB.com. So we only really have coherent, standardized, full stats in minor league baseball since 2005. But minor league baseball had been a thing for 102 years before that. So it's tough to say, like, no one has ever done something when your stats only go back to 2005. But often, especially when you're writing up a game, like just as it happens, no one has the time to who knows even how to go into all of minor league baseball history, much of it not online at all, to find precedent. But it had never happened in the major leagues, and it never happened in the minors since 2005. And here's where Twitter is great. The next day I was like, minor league baseball, somebody had to have hit 5 doubles in a game. And I asked Twitter, and I got a couple responses, and one guy, I wish I had this pulled up, just gave me a list of like 4 guys who had done it.
Wow.
Like within like 10 minutes. I was like,
that's amazing, man.
I was like, how did you know that? But the last person to do it in the minors was in the 21st century. Keith McDonald with the Memphis Redbirds on May 1st, 2001, hit 5 doubles in a game against the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. So
old PCL ball.
Yeah, exactly. And here's how much of a classic PCL game that was, Tyler. Keith McDonald, excuse me, during his 5-double game. That was during a game in which his Memphis Redbirds were leading 15-0 after 7 innings.
They ended up losing.
They won 15-14.
Rallying for 14 and not being able to pull it off is
14 runs.
Brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, the Sky Sox scored 14 runs over the final 2 innings and lost 15-14 in Keith McDonald's 5-double game. So props to Keith McDonald. And when I was searching to confirm this Keith McDonald nugget about him being the last player to hit 5 doubles in a game in the minor leagues, I found this about Keith McDonald, which got a lot more press because it happened in the majors. Keith McDonald had 3 hits in the major leagues, all of them home runs. And there's no player in Major League history who had that many hits in a major league career with all of them being home runs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keith McDonald also, by the way, you said that game was in 2001?
Yeah.
Keith McDonald only had 22 doubles in 2001. So he had 5 of his 22 doubles on one day. Wow.
Yeah, and if you're looking at his stats, you can see Major League stats, 3 hits, 3 home runs.
That is amazing. Good for him. That's
weird.
A pretty cool footnote to have, I gotta say.
It really is. I mean, weird baseball legend, Keith McDonald. Yeah. So that is another really good one. Man, there's so many good ones to share. How about on June 25th, a 4 home run game and a 3 triple game on the same night in the world of minor league baseball? 2 pretty rare feats. Since 2005, there have been 15 4-homer games and 26 3 triple games. So to have them both occur on the same night, not the same game or anything like that, but on the same night is really rare. In the majors, 2002 was the only season in which both a 3 triple game and a 4 home run game were recorded, just in the span of the same season.
And it was on the same night.
On the same night, we had Hogan Windish. What a great name. He had 4 home runs for the AA Arkansas Travelers, and he drove in all 9 of the team's runs. 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, and your team scores 9 runs and wins. I mean, that is a day.
That is a night.
And a night. And he was the last Arkansas Traveler to hit 4 home runs in a game prior to Hogan Windish on June 25th. The immortal.
Mike Trout.
No. Tyrone Horn.
Oh, Tyrone Horn. I remember Tyrone Horn.
You remember what was notable about his 4 home run game?
I don't think so.
It was the first recorded instance ever of hitting for the quote unquote home run cycle. He
Oh,
hit
I
a
do remember
solo,
this
two,
story.
three, and grand slam. And then someone did that for the second time ever. Was that just last year, I believe? And I
I
can't
think
remember.
so. Yeah. Wow. That
Yeah,
is amazing.
but the guy who got 3 triples that night on June 25th, Cole Carrig,
Last year
a
was Chandler Redmond, but 2 years ago, Chandler Redmond, by the way, who was also in the Cardinals organization. Chandler Redmond in Amarillo on August 11th of 2022.
So there you go. Good find there. So Tyrone Horn and Chandler Redmond, the only two to hit home run cycles in minor league baseball. But Cole Carrig, who hit the 3 triple game on June 25th, he was playing for the Arizona Complex League Rockies when he did it. Any guesses as to who the last player to hit 3 triples in a game was in the minor leagues?
Billy Hamilton.
Good guess. The answer is Cole Carrig, the same guy.
Oh, how weird.
He did it last year, August 9th of last year, while playing for the Fresno Grizzlies.
That is amazing.
So Cole Carrig, the last 3 triple games in minor league baseball in back-to-back seasons.
Wow.
Is wild.
At 2 different levels, also.
Yeah, 2 different levels. 2 different levels. Man. Okay, here's one. This one got some press. Wyatt Hoffman, son of Trevor, all-time saves leader, Trevor Hoffman, of course. He pitched a 1-2-3 ninth inning to close out a game for the Lake Elsinore Storm. So that got some play. Trevor Hoffman's son playing for a Padres affiliate, closing out a game with a 1-2-3 inning. But he closed out a game in which his team was winning 19-0 over the Stockton Ports. And 2, he's not a pitcher. He's a position player. But in deciding whether or not to include that, I looked up Wyatt Hoffman's stats, and he pitched again on June 21st, and it was an actual save situation. He entered the game in the bottom of the 12th inning with the Storm leading the Visalia Rawhide 8-6, but he allowed 2 runs to tie the game. He then threw threw a scoreless 13th, and then in the 14th, the Storm scored 2, but Wyatt Hoffman gave up 3 in the bottom of the 14th and took the loss. So he had a chance at the win or at the save, couldn't get it. He had the chance at the win, couldn't get it. Ended up with the loss. But what do you expect a utility man to do pitching 3 innings?
There's only so many good outcomes when you're a utility person being tasked with that.
Yeah, so we are not knocking you, Wyatt Hoffman, but we do hope that you get a save in a minor league game at some point, or even in a major league game at some point. But yeah, he is a utility guy. He is, you watch him pitch. He is not trying to be his dad. He's his own man. And but he's played every position, but catcher and first base this year. So he's a versatile guy. So those are not all the crooked numbers, but those are some good ones.
Yeah. It's a good
fun
smattering.
column.
It's a good taste of what you get in crooked numbers, which is one of my favorite features that we have on the site. And you can, of course, check out Crooked Numbers via Benjamin Hill, MILB.com. And Ben, we'll pivot. We've got some other news from the world of minor league baseball and really some surprising news as according to a release from the Modesto Nuts, this season is going to be the final season for the Modesto Nuts at the historic John Thurman Field, which opened in 1955. The release from the Nuts says, quote, Seattle Mariners and the city of Modesto announced today, and this column comes from Wednesday, July 10th. Couldn't figure out what day July 10th was. Announced that a mutual agreement on a long-term lease extension for the California League Modesto Nuts could not be reached. While both entities hoped for a more favorable outcome, the negotiations were unsuccessful, and the current lease agreement will expire on September 30th, 2024. Due to the lease expiration, 2024 season will be the final season of the Nuts in Modesto at John Thurman Field. John Thurman Field, an older ballpark, Ben. Obviously, there is a substantial financial commitment for a lot of teams, a lot of cities, a lot of organizations to get ballparks up to the standard now required by MLB in these agreements. And unfortunately for Modesto, it's going to be the end of the road coming up in September.
Yeah, I was in Modesto just in the beginning of May on my first ballpark road trip of the season. I did talk to some people about the long-term future of the franchise and didn't get the best vibes, so to speak, about, their long-term future at John Thurman Field. I did not realize, though, it did not occur to me that this was going to be it. That during the 2024 season, lease expires. That's it. You're done. And I'm sure a lot of people were a bit blindsided by that news yesterday. And hey, the official podcast of minor league baseball, the official website, we wait until all T's are crossed and I's are dotted in terms of what happens next. But if there is a silver lining here, it's that there has to be somewhere new that gets Cal League baseball somewhere for this team to land in 2025. But so that's always a silver lining with something like this. But now, I mean, of course, your thoughts are going to go to Modesto, a member of the Cal League since I believe 1946, or at least they had a team in the Cal League in 1946.
According to Wikipedia, which is always like a little, the only time that they were not in the Cal League was 1965. There was no team in Modesto in 1965, but otherwise, charter members from 46 through 64, and then again from 1966 until the present.
Yeah, so just a classic Cal League locale, John Thurman Field, going back to 1955. As I said, I've been there a couple times. Always enjoyed it. Definitely a no frills kind of facility, and you could see that it did need work for the long term, and they have struggled with attendance somewhat. So, not to say that some signs weren't there. The Nuts are owned by the Seattle Mariners, their parent club, and yeah, agreement with the city in terms of a renewed lease extension, because obviously that agreement would have been contingent on whatever ballpark improvements were needed to bring it up to current facility standards. And for a ballpark built in 1955 in a small market, those would have been pretty considerable. So stay tuned. We will keep you abreast as information develops. You can Google around online and find plenty of speculation, but no one knows anything for sure right now, or those who do aren't saying it. And we'll return to this, but for now, it's just a sad piece of news to pass along that a iconic Cal League market with a long history of baseball and a ballpark with a long history of baseball is no more. And if you're anywhere near the Central Valley, or even if you're not and you're able, try to get out to a game in the next couple months, because that'll be it. And this is the end of the road for John Thurman Field hosting minor league baseball.
Yeah, so certainly thinking about Modesto and our friends, the people we know in that front office and elsewhere. And as the calendar gets closer to the month of July, we are into the heat of the minor league baseball season, really in just about every respect. And that, of course, means in the promotions aspect, maybe more than anything else. And Ben's got another edition of Promo Preview coming up. This is like late July, early August is always like one of the sweetest of sweet spots for good promotions across the minors.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up. And you can check out my monthly promo preview column, the July edition, on MLB.com, MILB.com. And some of these things are things we talked about maybe when they were announced in the offseason, but just to let you know, it's happening now. I mean, we're recording today on July 11th. This is the start of Pontooners weekend for the Great Lakes Loons. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're playing as the Pontooners in a salute to the slow-moving pleasure boats, their legion in the Great Lakes region. Well, Great Lakes plays in Michigan, and Saginaw Bay is nearby, and of course there's innumerable smaller lakes throughout the area. So they're playing as the Pontooners, paying tribute to summer living in that region of Michigan. And something really cool they did that they just put out some pictures online, and people can sit in these seats, so to speak, starting today and this weekend, is they have a pontoon group area. It's like a pontoon boat on the concourse where you can get as a group area and bring a crowd to a game and hang out in a pontoon on the concourse. So that's pretty cool. I don't know about you, Tyler, but I've never watched a baseball game from a pontoon.
Not only have I never watched a baseball game from a pontoon, I don't even know if I've ever been on a pontoon.
I have not.
I think I have.
I've been on a rowboat, a canoe, a kayak.
Same. A ferry.
A motorboat.
But a pontoon.
Not a pontoon.
Might be absent from both of our aquatic histories. All right, Ben. We've got obviously the Major League All-Star game, the Futures game coming up. We're going to hear from Sam here in a little bit on some of the Futures games aspects. But we also have one other thing to plug. And this comes to us from a news release from the West Coast League, one of the premier collegiate summer leagues in baseball. Quote, the West Coast League is thrilled to announce that the 2024 All-Star Game will be broadcast live on MLB Network, MLB.tv, MLB.com, and the MLB app on Wednesday, July 17th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. That's 7:30 Mountain, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. Fans can look forward to an exciting evening of baseball featuring the league's top players and future stars. The broadcast will showcase the expertise of renowned on-air talent, including, presumably none of that applies to this first person, Tyler Maughan, play-by-play, Ryan Roland Smith, analyst, and MLB Pipeline Sam Dykstra, analyst. Their extensive knowledge and passion for the game promise to deliver an engaging and insightful viewing expertise. Then there's a quote from Sam. Sam's getting quoted in press releases now. This is amazing. But man,
Wait, why'd he get the quote and not you?
I don't know. Why didn't I get the quote? Rip off. Or Ryan. Ryan's the only one of the three of us who's been in the big leagues. Me and Sam are, we're chopped liver here comparatively. But Sam does have a very good quote. He says, quote, we've already seen Jaron Duran, Stephen Kwan, Adley Rutschman, Tarek Skubal, and Tyler Anderson play in the West Coast League on their way to becoming 2024 MLB All-Stars. I can't wait until next Wednesday when we'll help our audience get a closer look at this year's batch of West Coast Leaguers who could follow similar paths to Major League stardom. We'll be joined on the broadcast by West Coast League Commissioner Rob Neyer. You remember Rob Neyer from all of his work as a legendary baseball writer over the course of his career prior to becoming the commissioner of the West Coast League. And we're excited, man. This is going to be a blast. This is something Sam and Ryan and I have known about for a little while, but obviously couldn't talk about officially until today. But I feel super lucky. I get to call a game with two guys who I consider among my best friends, and we get to do it from a really, really beautiful place with the backdrop of the Pacific Northwest in Bellingham, Washington, being the host site for it. Joe Martin Field, the place where Ken Griffey Jr. began his professional career as a member of the Seattle Mariners organization in Bellingham. This is going to be a blast, and very excited for it coming up on Wednesday. And I'll see if I can get Sam to discuss these candlepin bowling accusations.
Yeah, I hope you do. I mean, it's always better for the truth to see the light,
right?
For the muck to rise to the surface.
It'll be a blight on the broadcast if we don't talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's just better to clear the air. So I'll get you a little more information on all that. I think it involved with him because in candlepin you can take 3 turns of frame.
Okay,
but I think he was taking 4.
Unbelievable. I'll just bring up this deep cut reference to a podcast on the national TV coverage of a collegiate summer league baseball game. All right, Sam, here's what the fans want to know. But no, man, very excited about it. And so you can catch us, of course, once again, Wednesday evening, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Mountain, 6:30 local time in Bellingham, Washington on MLB Network. And speaking of MLB Network, our very own Benjamin Hill was on MLB Network earlier today. We're going to hear a little bit of that, but tell us about your visit to Secaucus today.
Yeah, this was nice, man. I been on the network 4 or 5 times in my career now. This was my first time in studio for a live appearance. So there's all these different categorizations of my, I've done some live Zoom hits. I've done some pre-tape stuff in the studio before, but this was my first time going to the studio and doing a live show, MLB Central. It was a lot of fun. Of course, I was all nervous beforehand, like I always am, and anxious, and what if I mess up? What if I say something inadvertently and it ruins my whole career? All those kind of things. But it's fine. And I really enjoyed talking to Lauren Shahadi, Cliff Floyd, and Mark DeRosa about minor league baseball, about ballpark road trips, specifically about my most recent ballpark trip that hit Rome, Georgia, Madison, Alabama, aka Rocket City, Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, Arkansas, and Springdale, Arkansas, and just got into it and explored the wide world of minor league baseball, and it was great to be a part of that. Hope to do it again sometime soon, and really appreciate the invite to come on there, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Whenever you do something that's kind of stressful, you just feel the rest of the day feels like,
like, oh, I did it. It's over. I can breathe a little bit.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's just the waiting and showing up too early and just by myself in a green room of some kind and just being like, don't blow it. And then I'm like, what were you even worried about, man?
Yeah.
No. But it was a great thing to be a part of. And yeah, Tyler, I'll send you the video, and you can throw a little clip on just to give people a taste. And that full clip is online. Ben Hill on MLB Central talking about his quote unquote Southern hospitality road trip. Check it out.
Here he is, the one and only Benjamin Hill on MLB Central today.
What's the craziest thing you've seen at a minor league park?
Craziest. I mean, there's been so much weirdness. I mean, I was
Weirdness.
trying to answer this question yesterday. One of my very first ballpark road trips, I went to Huntsville, see the Huntsville Stars, to play in an all-night game of wiffle ball after the game. There was a rain out, but for whatever reason, the general manager had still hired a sword swallower just to perform after the game. So he just performed on the field for like 20 people after the game. And I got to pull a sword out of a guy's mouth in Huntsville, Alabama. I mean, that kind of stuff.
Do they still do like they pick a visiting player, and if he strikes out, people get 10-cent beers?
Some teams do that. The most famous one that does that is San Jose. They've got a San Jose Giants. They have a beer batter routine. They have an alternate identity called the Beer Batters. So sometimes they play.
You don't remember that?
I don't remember none of that.
It'd be like tonight in Bellingham, Washington.
I blocked it all out.
Mark DeRosa's the strikeout. I'm like, I am not punching.
Just
Yeah,
because
it's extra motivation. I mean,
All right, I got one. The Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas. Yeah, speaking of Huntsville, they play just outside of Huntsville.
So give me some on the food. Really good?
Oh, they have great food. They really try to be creative, and they have a lot of rotating specials. Last time I was there, they had, which was just a couple weeks ago, they had s'more fries, which is sweet potato fries with s'more toppings on them.
Right. But you don't eat it.
Well, I don't eat a lot of
good
it.
at all.
Yeah, there it is.
That was good?
You can't tell me that was good.
Well, here's the thing, a little twist. I got diagnosed with celiac disease over a decade ago, so I had to go gluten-free.
Yeah.
So you're gluten, so you had.
So a lot of ballpark food I can't do. So what I started doing in the wake of that diagnosis was recruiting a designated eater at every ballpark I go to. So I have a designated eater at every ballpark.
All right. So when you had that, what did they say to that?
Oh, that was Sophie Ballgame on Twitter. She liked it. I don't think she was over the moon with it, but it was really creative stuff. And there she's got some hot chicken fries with fried pickles, mac and cheese. Good ballpark plate there.
I think I can.
I could.
Yeah, one of their concession stands is actually called the Dumpster Dive because they got a lot of trash branding going on.
You said you don't follow the players much, but who is the best minor leaguer turned major leaguer that you've put eyes on?
Yeah, it's often kind of sadly, I'll look at a box score later and be like, oh, wait, I saw that dude?
Yeah, I saw him.
But because of what I do, focusing on everything else, I miss it a lot. But I've done some interviews through the years. One I did on a flip cam 2011 before I had a smartphone. I can't find it, but Jose Altuve in the Lancaster Jethawks weight room, and I really wish I could go back to that one.
Man.
Wow. And he had to, remember his beginning in the game, he had to beg scouts to try out time and time again. Think about that now when you look back on his career trajectory.
Yeah, probably the only player I ever interviewed was maybe shorter than I was. So.
Well, there's a rumor flying around that you can cut a rug.
Well,
They were saying in Memphis.
When called upon. In my younger days, I used to do this all the time. But I find Al Pacino and Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. They got me on the field in Memphis to do a chicken dance. Against two.
It looks like you've done this before, though.
Yeah.
I
played it well.
And how are your knees still
That's what everyone
to do
says.
that?
I'm in my 40s now, and but you know how it is. Like the lights go on, the adrenaline's pumping.
You know how it is.
You risk it all.
Yeah, you risk it all. You only got one shot to blow.
If I did that on the third bounce, my kneecap would shoot across the room.
Hi, everybody. It's Sam, just chiming in here real quick. I know Tyler and Ben have control of the main show, and this is another disjointed week of the show before the show. So it goes in the middle of the season sometimes when we're all across the world. I am currently coming to you from Pasadena, California, where I am attending one of my best friend's weddings over the weekend. Unfortunately, it's the day of the Futures game, so I will not be in Arlington, Texas. We'll be following along, of course, along with the MLB draft starting on Sunday, and then I'll have coverage of the draft for days 2 and 3 on Monday and Tuesday. But just wanted to jump in real quick just to kind of give you a preview of one of the biggest weekends, of course, in minor league baseball and prospectum and just this corner of the baseball universe. So on Saturday, we kind of previewed the Futures game in our 4th of July special a little bit last week. So listen back to that for a more comprehensive version. But The Futures game, of course, is coming on Saturday, July 13th at 4 p.m. It'll be on MLB Network. That is a change from previous years when it's been on Peacock. This year on MLB Network, it'll be on cable television. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for everybody to see. I'm excited that it'll be broadcast through that cable network for sure, and MLB Network. A lot of good folks working that game for sure. Just going back to the rosters, I won't read every name like I did last week, but just to give you a prediction, I think the National League takes this. You look at their pitching staff, as I said before, it is much deeper than the American League side, and in a 7-inning format like this, I think it just favors getting as many really good arms into the game as you can. So the National League, when you look at the arms that they have, Bubba Chandler, Chase Dollander, Tink Hens doesn't sound like he's actually going to travel to the game on Saturday in Arlington, but he is on the roster. Rhett Lauder of the Cincinnati Reds, Quinn Matthews, Noble Meyer, Robbie Snelling, Brandon Sproat, Thomas White. All of those guys, literally every single one of them is a top 100 prospect. And the NL getting to bring in those arms. Some of those guys may only get 1 out or 2 outs, as it were, because that's a lot of names for only 7 innings. But if they let it fly, if they let their special stuff show, I think the American League is going to have a really tough afternoon, even with some big names on their side, like Max Clark and Marcelo Meyer and Xavier Isaac, who I'm really excited to see in a game like this, and Samuel Basallo, Orioles catcher, who's having a solid season and is extremely young, and another big piece of that Orioles team. And then for those of you who haven't heard about this before, it is new. It's the Future Skills Showcase, which it will happen after the game. If you're at the game in Arlington, we'll be covering it Saturday night at MLB Pipeline and MILB.com. But if you want to watch it, it'll be broadcast Sunday morning on MLB Network, so you can watch the game, the showcase for yourself. It's a opportunity to see some of the best hitters in the Futures game and some guys who have been invited just for this showcase to show how good they are at spraying the ball around the field, swinging for the fences. There's even a little bit of a bunting competition, 3 different rounds. The first one is just aiming for targets around the field. The second one is calling your shot, so saying I'm going to hit it to left and then actually hitting it to left. You have to go to left, center, to right, and then you can continually call your shot the rest of the round. And the last one is swing for the fences. More points for going oppo, but you also get points for home runs to center and left, of course. So opportunities for guys to show barrel control, opportunities for guys to show pure power. It's the best all-around hitter that's going to come through in this. And if you want a prediction from me on that, I think last week I said I would take Brooks Lee. He's now in the majors. He will not be participating. He's been replaced by Luke Keeschel, who's having a breakout season in that same Twins system. So I'm going to go back to my original pick, which was Roman Anthony of the Boston Red Sox. He's climbed to Double-A. He climbed 3 levels last year. He's back with Double-A Portland this year, part of the big 3 in Boston, or working their way to Boston, I should say, between Meyer and Kyle Teal, who are participating in the big game. Roman Anthony's only participating in the skills showcase, but he's got the power. Power's taken a nice jump this season. I think he's got the ability to spray the ball to all fields if that's what he focuses on. Just a really, really good hitting prospect, and I think this is kind of built for him to shine. So Roman Anthony would be my pick. Basallo, I think, would be my secondary pick. He was a late fill-in. I think he's filling in for Brooks Lee in the skills showcase. So either Anthony or Basallo for my picks on that. And then on Sunday is day 1 of the MLB draft. Even as we sit here now, I'm recording this Thursday afternoon. No guarantee on who's going to go number 1 overall. My colleagues at MLB Pipeline, Jim Callis and Jonathan Mayo, they cover this as thoroughly as anybody can. I mean, I wish everybody could see what I see behind the scenes and how hard they work and how many people they're talking to and how much info they're gathering and how much data they're looking at to try to get our top 250 rankings in a consensus order, which is difficult. You try to get an industry to agree on anything, and I'm sure you could talk to them and they would slide guys here and there. It's never going to be a perfect list, but it's definitely one they work hard on. And going into Sunday right now, it's Travis Pisana 1, Charlie Condon 2, Jack Caglianone 3, JJ Weatherholt 4, and Hagen Smith 5. That's the top 5 on our rankings. That's not necessarily a prediction on who the top 5 picks will be and in what order. So the Cleveland Guardians have the number 1 overall pick, and it seems like it's going to go down to the wire, kind of similar to what we had last year. The Pirates they were considering anybody in the Big Five, which was Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, Max Clark, Dylan Cruz, or Walker Jenkins. They eventually went with Paul Skeens. And hey, again, I'm talking to you on Thursday. We just saw what Paul Skeens is capable of, going 7 no-hit innings. Just arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and I don't say that lightly right now. He has been as good as anybody in the entire sport since he got called up to the Pirates. So the Pirates did their due diligence on that pick, taking Skeens over those list of hitters. Guardians kind of have a similar debate on their own hand here. I don't think they're going to go pitcher. I don't think there's anybody with Skeens' ceiling. I really like Chase Burns. Hagen Smith set a Division I record for highest K per 9. I mean, those guys had distinguished college careers. I just don't think they have the stuff that Skeens does. So I think it's going to be a college hitter who goes first overall. If there was a favorite, and this is, everybody I've talked to and what I've read, it seems like the favorite would be Bazana, but I don't say that like there's a 55% chance that it's going to be Bazana. I think he leads the group. Jim and Jonathan on their podcast this week, they did percentage guesses, and I think they both had Bazana at 1, but neither of them had Bazana with a better chance than 38%. So it seems like if you were taking Bazana versus the field, you might go the field for the Guardians pick there, but we'll see if they do end up taking Travis Bazana. He's one of the best pure hitters in this class. It's a potential plus hit tool, plus power. He's a really good runner. He can play second base. He might just be average there eventually, but he's got a lefty bat, certainly a history of hitting both in the Cape League and at Oregon State. We know the Guardians love their middle infield prospects. I mean, they develop them really well and like to take those guys. So maybe that gives him a little bit of a leg up over Charlie Condon, who optimistically you could say would be a third baseman, but sounds like everybody prefers him in a corner outfield spot, and he's going to really have to hit. Now, we know he did that. I mean, he showed easy plus power at Georgia this season, was the Golden Spikes Award winner, was like the best statistical hitter in college baseball this year. It's just, is he going to provide you that extra layer of value defensively and with his running? It doesn't seem to be there for Condon. I mean, we gave him a 40 on his run grade tool, whereas Bazana's a 60. I mean, that's a pretty wide spread right there. Jack Caglianone could be in the mix. J.J. Weatherholt, I think, has even a leg up on Charlie Condon. Kind of a similar profile to Bazana as somebody who can play up the middle, is just as good at a pure hitter, maybe a little less power, good runner, has a history of hamstring issues, especially this spring. So if you think that's going to be an issue for him moving forward, then maybe you ease up on J.J. Weatherholt. But he does play shortstop. I don't think Travis Bazana is going to play short. I think Weatherholt has an opportunity to do that. And when he was healthy and not questioning the hamstring, he made some pretty strong plays for West Virginia at the 6. So there's an extra layer of value there. And then one thing I can't say I know right now is what negotiations are happening in the back room, right? Like, the Guardians have one of the biggest pools, I believe, if not the biggest pool in this year's drafts, but they could decide, hey, if J.J. Weatherholt is willing to sign for $200,000 less than Bazana, we go with Weatherholt and we carry those $200,000 to our other picks. It's different than any other sport. You probably know that if you're listening to this podcast right now. But for those who don't, this isn't always just as simple as taking the best player. If I was running a draft room, that's what I would do. Get the best talent in your system and go from there. But some teams prefer to draft quantity. Give yourself as many lottery tickets as you can. Spread out that money and get 4 or 5 decent prospects as opposed to 2 or 3 really good ones with that money. We'll see how Cleveland's going to play out. I'm really excited. I love that there isn't a nailed-on number 1 here. I think that only adds to the excitement for the event and what the trickle-down from there is going to be, because you look at, like, the Reds had the number 2 pick, and for a while there it seemed like they were going to take whoever a Bazana or Condon is left. Well, what if the Guardians go with Weatherholt at number 1, and now the Reds really have a debate on their hands if they prefer Condon or Bazana. So it should be a lot of fun on Sunday. We'll have a full breakdown next week on the pod of how the first round shook out, where certain guys were selected. One name I want to throw out real fast that I'm excited to see what happens with him, as well as Ryan Waldschmidt of the University of Kentucky, led the Wildcats to Omaha for the first time ever. He had a very freak injury last year. where he tore his ACL when he tripped in a divot in the outfield in the Cape League. So it took him many months to return from that. When he did return to Kentucky, he was only DHing for a while. Then they let him play left field. It sounds like some teams are considering him as a center fielder because as he slowly was recovering from that and gained more confidence in the knee again, he was showing at least above average speed. And if that is true, then you want to try him in center field. And he said he would be eager to try out center if given the opportunity on the pro side. That's certainly going to add to his value. And he has a really good bat as well. So we'll see how much teams trust Waldschmidt, but he might sneak into the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, given the kind of trajectory of his career once he was healthy as a junior in Lexington. So, like I said, next week we'll break down the first round and how things shook out and what it means for farm systems now, which got stronger, which got more interesting, more dynamic, who swung for the fences, thinking of somebody like Kansas City last year taking Blake Mitchell in the top 10 picks. That was a head scratcher for many people, but it allowed them to make some other picks down the line, talking about spreading out that bonus pool. And now Blake Mitchell has looked really good in his first year. Yes, he strikes out a lot, but he shows really good power and could be a nailed-on catcher. They may have their catcher of the future in Kansas City, which is saying something because they've had Salvador Perez for so long. So we'll break that all down next week. I don't know if Tyler said this yet. If he hasn't, I'm going to reiterate, or if he has, I'm going to reiterate it. If he hasn't, I'm going to bring it to you guys because it is now out there. We will be broadcasting the West Coast League All-Star Game. If you haven't heard of the West Coast League before, it's another summer collegiate wood bat league. This takes place primarily in the Pacific Northwest and parts of Canada out that way. We will be in Bellingham, Washington. That game is coming to you next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, 9:30 Eastern time. That will be on MLB Network. So you can tune in, hear two voices. If you're listening to this show right now, you are familiar with, but we will be broadcasting a game of baseball along with analyst Ryan Rowland-Smith, which I'm really excited to work with Ryan. Tyler's done it a bunch on the international side. I've spoken with him before just about Mariners stuff, but this will be great to work that booth with those two guys. And I'm so excited. It's going to be a real fun opportunity. I mean, you look at some of the guys who have come through the West Coast League, even if it's just for brief stops. Adley Rutschman played there for a while. Jaron Duran played there for a little bit. Brooks Lee, who just got called up and we were talking about earlier, has some experience in the West Coast League. Yes, it's not the Cape Cod League in terms of prestige, but guys who are freshmen and sophomores trying to establish themselves and might feel more comfortable in the Pacific Northwest early in their college careers, they're coming through that league, and they might play in the Cape League eventually, or they might be playing in the pros eventually, or they may be playing, heck, even in the Major League All-Star game, like guys like Rutschman and Duran gets to do this week. So just because it's not the most prestigious wood bat league right now, there might be some names you see on Wednesday that you're going to be excited to tell your friends about down the line. And we can't wait to bring that to you guys live on air on Wednesday. It'll also be available on MLB.com. If you don't have MLB Network, we'll share that link around for sure. So very exciting week and couple of days ahead. Like I said, follow MLB Pipeline, MILB.com on all the social channels for full All-Star Futures game and MLB Draft coverage. And hopefully Tyler and me will be together recording this podcast next week. We'll have to find some time in Bellingham, but it's always more fun when we're in the same room together. So I will catch you guys next week. Enjoy the big week in Prospectum and minor league baseball. And I'll catch you from Bellingham next week.
Interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radio Land must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once played until the sun went down. The others never even made it out of bed. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A. The Dallas disease bugs. B. The Memphis fever germs. C. The Vancouver virus hounds. You must be feeling all right if you picked B. The Memphis fever germs, who infected the old Southern League of 1893. They didn't quite finish with the pennant, but it sure was hard for all the other teams to get over the fever germs. The great epidemic of team names for professional and semi-professional ball clubs of the 19th century is that the monikers were often informal and unofficial, casually bestowed upon the club by a manager, local press, fans, or even opponents, and carrying none of the sanctioned legitimacy we attach to team names today. Such was the case of the Fever Germs of '93, who were also known as, and played other seasons as, the Memphis Giants. Because of this sickening lack of official Fever Germs moniker-related records, it's hard to say with certainty where the name came from. Memphis, though, had been a major hotspot for the illness commonly called American Plague, or Yellow Fever, with a huge wave shrinking the city's population and causing a litany of problems starting in 1879. It wasn't until 1893, the year the club started being called the Fever Germs, that Memphis got out of bankruptcy and regained its city charter. And the Fever Germs of the Southern League were downright infested with talent, boasting in their starting lineup no fewer than 7 players who would go on to play or already had played in the major leagues. And the same could be said for 4 members of the Memphis pitching rotation. Most notable among these players were infielders Billy Klingman, who played 10 years in the Bigs, and Ed Cartwright, who you remember as the star of the 1896 Washington Senators. You've called it right if you said Cartwright was the fever germ who bugged opponents best. He led the loop with a .373 batting average, 144 hits, and 110 runs. But that wasn't enough for the Fever Germs to lay flat the stiff competition atop the Southern League, as their 53-38 record tied them with the Savannah Electrics for 4th place, 1.5 games behind the Charleston Seagulls and a half game behind Macon Central City and the Atlanta Windjammers. Although Memphis remained in the league in 1894 and 95, the club was known more and more as the Giants. And that's how the Fever Germs were eradicated. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these players really hopped to it in the minors of yesteryear? A. Joe Rabbit. B. Charlie Rue. C. Petey Toter. Want to know the answer? Get moving. Or tune into the next Goes to the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is headed to the beach, and I've got to inflate his floaty.
So good to hear from Sam Dykstra, Josh Jackson, and our favorite guys across the minor league baseball podcast world. How about the Ghosts? That's an all-timer name, this week's episode of Ghosts of the Minors. I'm not sure that there are many across the history of minor league baseball that compare with the Fever Germs.
Yeah, funny thing about the Fever Germs, I'll take partial credit for it being on Ghosts. I went to Memphis just last month, and before I went, I was looking at my blog post on Ben's Biz blog, still active, and I hope it stays active because it is an excellent repository of minor league baseball, ballpark road trip stuff. And anyway, I'm distracting myself. But when I went to Memphis in 2012, I was looking at that blog post, and I had a picture from a ballpark tour that I was given, and it was more down in like the players area, but it had paintings of various Memphis champions throughout Memphis baseball history. And one of them said Memphis Fever Germs. So when I came across that blog post 12 years later in the year 2024, I said, oh yeah, look at that, the Fever Germs. And Josh took it and ran.
Did a great job, as always. Next week's guest between Joe Rabbit, Charlie Rue, and Petey Toter just makes me want to go rewatch the movie Jojo Rabbit. I don't even know if that's the answer, because obviously we don't know until we hear from Josh the I don't want to ruin it for myself, but I'm hoping it's Joe Rabbit. But either way, I'll probably just go rewatch Jojo Rabbit because I loved it.
Well, there you go. I remember seeing that.
Oh man, so good. So good. I went and saw it with our former colleague at MILB.com, Mark Emery, when he lived in Denver briefly. And at the end of the movie, we're like two dudes just sitting in a movie theater. It was like a random, it's like a Thursday afternoon or something. Like I was, off until whatever time I used to start my shift. We like both looked over at each other like, we're gonna start crying in this theater right now. Oh, it's so good. So, before we wrap up this week's episode of the show before the show, it is time for an unfortunately Sam Dykstra free, but nevertheless a still hotly anticipated edition of everybody's favorite game show, Name That Dude. This week, Ben will be giving the dude details, and I will be trying to name that dude.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it.
This is a player who, by the end of his career, was quite the journeyman, having played for 8 or 9 major league teams all the way up through age 37. His career ended in 1998.
Ooh, okay.
But it all started with the Phillies organization. He debuted professionally in the Phillies organization in 1980 with the Central Oregon Phillies, playing in Bend in the Northwest League.
Okay.
Moved on to Spartanburg, soon to see the return of minor league baseball in 2025. Spartanburgers, the Hub City Spartanburgers, are debuting next season. But prior to the return, the last team in Spartanburg was the Spartanburg Phillies. This guy played for them in 1981. Then on to yet another defunct team, the Peninsula Pilots in the Carolina League. They played in Hampton, Virginia. He spent all of 1982 there at the age of 21. 1983 was split between Double-A Reading, still the Phillies Double-A affiliate, of course, and the Phillies Triple-A affiliate at the time, the Portland Beavers. The Phillies had their Triple-A team all the way across the country in Portland in 1983.
Sure, that was fun for transactions.
Yeah, seriously. Shades of Washington Nationals being having their AAA affiliate in Fresno a number of years back. Anyhow, in that 1983 season is when, at the age of 22, he made his major league debut with the Phillies. Towards the end of that season, I don't believe he was on the postseason roster with that National League pennant-winning team. And then 1984, he was in it. He was a regular. 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89 with the Phillies, at which point he was traded to the Mets in 1989. Then the Dodgers, 91 or 90, 91, 92. Spent part of 1992 with the Royals, 93 with the Reds, 94 and 95 with Detroit, 95 back to the Royals towards the end of that year, 96, 97, 98 with Toronto.
Oh, man.
He was, I remember him mostly as a second baseman. He played the outfield as well. I think later in his career, some first base.
The
major league portion.
His last few years were with Toronto. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he was, kind of a utility bench player, really for the last 6 or 7 years of his career. The last time he played, he played 153 games for the 1991 Dodgers.
Oh, wow.
And that was about the end of that. With the Phillies, he had, I think, what were his best years. I picked him because I was a fan of this guy. A lot of triples, a lot of stolen bases.
Oh man, this is a tough one. I
thought it might be. It's a little before your time, and it's a guy that I have very fond memories of my very early baseball fandom.
It was like mid to late 90s Blue Jays team. Those are like the Roger Clemens Blue Jays, right?
Yeah, they would be.
Yeah.
He ended his career with those Roger Clemens Blue Jays teams. I will tell you that in 1989, when he went from the Phillies to the Mets, he was traded for Lenny Dykstra.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Good power, 28 home runs and 100 RBIs in 1987. Good power year for Major League Baseball in general. as many as 72 stolen bases in 1984. That was a career high. 19 triples, also in 1984. You know, multiple years of high stolen base totals, lots of triples,
And he was
decent power.
primarily an infielder.
Yeah. Played some outfield too, but I think earlier in his career he was
Traded.
he was. I'm looking at
Lenny
the
Dykstra.
registers. Second base pretty much all through those early years when he was hitting a lot of triples.
Man.
Native of the Dominican Republic, traded for Lenny Dykstra in 1989, ending his almost decade-long stint in the Phillies organization.
I have a guess, but I don't think this is right. No, because I remember this dude being on the Yankees. Mariano Duncan was going to be
That's
my
a good
guess.
He was on the Phillies 93, a little bit later.
Because I knew he had wrapped up, I think, with the Blue Jays, I want to say, Mariano Duncan. I know he was late in his career. I know he was with the Blue Jays. Man, I have no idea who this is.
This might be a tough one. I was being a little indulgent because this was one of my very first.
That's good, though.
But yeah, some really impressive years there in the 80s. I remember having a Phillies like yearbook from 1985 when I was just obsessed with the Phillies. I was like 6 years old. And one of the questions of the players was like, if I wasn't playing baseball, I'd do this. And his said I would work in a jeans factory.
Interesting.
And I remember as a kid thinking like, oh, he must really love clothes and fashion. And then when I thought about that years later, I was like, oh, it's because he was from the Dominican Republic.
Right. And that was probably like the biggest employer around in his
and
hometown.
He saw himself working in a clothing factory in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense.
And I didn't realize at the time. I was like, wow, like this guy loves fashion.
Yeah, this guy's like, he's really into the mechanics of how that all gets created.
Yeah, so I didn't really quite put it together, but you know, we're young, we learn.
Man, I have no idea.
No idea, huh? He let's see. Yeah, went on to be a coach for a lot of years, managed the Binghamton Mets in 2006, third base coach for the Baltimore Orioles for a lot of years, 7, 8, 9 into 10. Inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame in 2008. So
what? I feel like I should know.
Named the interim manager of the Orioles after Dave Tremblay's dismissal on June 4th, 2010.
Oh, man, I feel like I should definitely know this.
And he went on to manage 51 games on an interim basis for a bad 2010 Orioles team.
Oh, man. You like this this background audio of walls being sawed through in my house?
It's good ambience.
Man, I am coming up empty on this one.
That's okay. 3-time All-Star, 1984, 97, 91, 1987 Silver Slugger. Coach for the Tigers, Orioles, and Phillies from 2011 to 2017. Member of their Wall of Fame, as I said. Played for Phillies, Mets, Dodgers, Royals, Reds, Tigers, Royals, and Blue Jays. This player is, I won't draw it out anymore, Juan Samuel.
Juan Samuel. I do remember that name. Wasn't that the year? Didn't the Orioles hire Juan Samuel? Wasn't the manager for like the remainder of the season? Didn't they hire Buck Showalter like midway through? Like, I feel like Dave Tremblay was gone, and then they hired, what year was that? That was 2010 Orioles. Yeah, Dave Tremblay went 15-39. Juan Samuel went 17-34, and then Buck Showalter came on toward the end of the season and went 34-23, which is like very odd to be hired midway through a season. As like, it's not as though Buck Showalter was just like another guy in the organization. That was a guy who had already, managed in the World Series and had been in, big time jobs before. And then all of a sudden he just gets that job in the middle of a season and ended up leading the Orioles through 2018. Yeah, that was a surprising one.
Yeah, and as it turns out, just randomly, the only game I ever saw at Camden Yards was Buck Showalter's first as manager.
Interesting.
And I don't remember anything about the game, but I remember kind of clocking like, oh, this is Buck's first game. And so that was the one time I saw a game at Camden Yards with my friend Chris Doyle. Shout out to Chris Doyle.
The top player on the 2010 Baltimore Orioles in WAR was Jeremy Guthrie, 4.5 WAR that year. Brian Mattis, previously like a star in the Carolina League, and Matt Wieters. Those were like two of the first names that I learned from prospects when I first joined minor league baseball in 2009. Was like those two guys. Adam Jones was on that team. Ty Wigginton and Brian Roberts were on that team. There were some interesting cats on that 2010 Orioles squad. Well, now we know Juan Samuel. Yeah, I would not have guessed that, but I do remember Juan Samuel now.
Yeah, as I said, I was a real little kid and I loved him. Mike Schmidt was my first hero, and then the two just beneath Mike Schmidt were Von Hayes and Juan Samuel. I had 3 goldfish that I had like won at a fair or something, and they were named Mike, Von, and Juan.
That is awesome. Mike Vaughn and Juan.
They're all dead now.
That's a good tree. R.I.P. to Mike Vaughn and Juan. Just the goldfish, not the guy.
No, not the men. They're still going strong.
All right, Ben. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. If you know Juan Samuel, please give him our best. And for everybody here at MILB, at MLB.pipeline, for Sam Dykstra, for Josh Jackson, Benjamin Hill, and all the rest. My name is Tyler Mon. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch me and Sam coming up on Wednesday for the West Coast League All-Star Game at MLB Network, along with Ryan Rowland-Smith. And, of course, you can check out Ben's hit on MLB Network as well from today. That is already up on the internet for your viewing pleasure. And for all those guys, my name is Tyler Mon. We'll catch you next week.